Hi class, in this video I want to go over the editorial assignment. I basically want to go over what an editorial is and go over some topics that might work for the assignment. So basically an editorial is an opinion piece, and the most common ones are letters to the editors. Basically what letters to the editor are, they are letters written by the public. Now, because these are letters, they are not very well developed. Usually they will just say that they disagree with the newspaper article or that they agree and that this or that should be done. These are very short, but they are still called editorials because they are letters written to the editor. We also have opinion pieces, which if you go to the New York Times or any newspaper, they have an opinion section. So basically, an opinion piece, what it is also known as an editorial because it is making an argument or trying to persuade the reader of something. So what we're going to do for this assignment, we are going to write an opinion piece that resembles a persuasive essay. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go ahead and pick a newspaper. Now, the newspaper does not have to be a local newspaper. It can be a national newspaper. The only thing is that you have to make sure that the newspaper is from the United States. Simply because there are different laws when it comes to journalism, and there's also different ethics and different journalism techniques. So the newspaper should be from the US. Now, the US Mexican border has been covered a lot in the news in the past few months. So I think that you will have no problem finding an article that talks about an issue affecting the US Mexico border. So, like I said, any credible national or local newspaper will work for this assignment. Now, what you do have to keep in mind is that the article you choose has to focus on a current issue that impacts the US-Mexico border. Now, you don't want to pick an article that talks about all the issues impacting the US-Mexico border. I would suggest that the article should focus only on one. That way, your editorial can be more focused, and when you respond to it, your response will also be more focused. So, something else to keep in mind is that the article can be informative or argumentative. Um, for this assignment, you don't have to pick a persuasive article or an opinion piece. You are going to be writing an opinion piece, but that doesn't mean that the article you choose has to be argumentative. So, just to give you an example, an informative article will tell you about what happened. So, like, let's say they are talking about a caravan that came into Sunland Park and the caravan had 800 people. They are just giving you the facts, so that is informative. Now, an article that makes some sort of argument about not letting refugees in or not allowing caravans into the country, that would be making an argument because it's taking a stance on the issue. So for this assignment, you can pick an article that is informative or argumentative. However, as I keep saying, it should focus on a problem or conflict that affects the southern border, which is the US-Mexican border. And right now, the news has been covering a lot of issues that pertain to the border. Some of these issues are, for example, the caravans. We also, a few months ago, we saw a lot of coverage on the tent cities. We also saw a lot of information earlier in the year. A lot of the news outlets were covering the issue of sanctuary cities. Some federal aid was going to be withheld from cities if they decided to be sanctuary cities. So that was an issue that occurred earlier on in the year. Right now, we are seeing, of course, we still have issues with immigration. Unfortunately, we had a shooting in El Paso on August 3rd, so the El Paso Times and other newspapers have been covering that event. We've also had newspaper articles that started the discussion of rhetoric and how that affects minorities, especially in border cities. More recently, Actually, not recently because this has been going on for a while. One of the issues that we've seen here in El Paso is also the Duranguito neighborhood, which they want to demolish. So that's a local issue that could possibly work for this assignment. But we've also had other issues that newspapers have covered, such as the portrayal of the border. A lot of people think that the border is sensationalized by the media. So a lot of newspapers have written about that just because they feel that it's not being represented accurately. So there's a lot of issues out there. And like I said earlier, the US Mexican border has been in the news a lot, maybe like the past year. So it shouldn't be difficult to find an article. Something else I do want to mention though is that you don't want to pick an article that is more than a year old. Things change, things tend to change a lot daily. So it's best to pick an article, I would say, that's not older than January 2019, just to be sure that your issue is current. So whenever it comes to actually writing your editorial, after you read the article, think about where you stand on the issue. So once you've decided where you stand on the issue, you are going to write a 1.5 to 2 page editorial that resembles a persuasive essay and that responds to the article and the problem. Now, I mentioned further down that editorials are typically short and straight to the point. So you have to keep in mind that these editorials are meant to be published in a newspaper, and newspapers don't have a lot of space to begin with. So your editorial should be short and straight to the point, yet it should have necessary details. So basically what this means is try to avoid a lot of fluff. Stick to your point, provide your evidence, and make your argument. Also, something to remember is to avoid using I or you, simply because that is not recommended in academic writing. When you're using I, the focus tends to be on you, the writer, instead of on the issue. And if you're using you, of course, not the issue, the focus tends to be on the reader, not on the issue. So by using third person point of view, you are ensuring that the focus is the issue, not the reader or the writer. So how you should organize your editorial is, first, you should introduce the problem or conflict and provide a brief summary of the article. So let us know what's going on in the article, what are the main points. Try to avoid quoting in the summary. The summary should contain only the main points of the article, along with important details. And of course, in the summary, you don't want to state any opinions or biases or anything like that. The summary should be objective because all you're doing is summarizing the article. After you've done that, go ahead and contextualize the problem. Tell us what's going on, who's affected, what are the consequences, what is a rhetorical situation. What I mean by the rhetorical situation is, I mean, what is the issue in terms of the ethics of it, the values of it, the logic behind it. Is this problem more of an ethical issue? Is it more of a personal emotional issue? Is it more of a logical problem? And when I use the word emotion, I am referring to pathos, which I'm sure a lot of you in English 111 learned about ethos, pathos, and logos. And that's what I mean by the rhetorical situation, right? Who does it affect ethically, emotionally, and logically? But again, I use the word emotionally in terms of pathos. This is not a personal piece, so you don't want to provide a lot of personal examples, nor do you want to make it about you. The editorial should be about the issue and where you stand. So after you've contextualized the problem, what you want to go ahead and do is you want to go ahead and state your opinion on the issue. Where do you stand on the issue? What is your reaction and why do you feel this way? Now remember that basically this right here, state your opinion and your reasons, that will be your thesis statement. So remember that in your thesis statement, you want to avoid announcements. So don't say things like, my opinion on the issue is, for example, if I'm writing about the media having a negative portrayal on the border, my thesis would say something along the lines of, the media provides a fake portrayal of the border due to, and then I would go ahead and provide my reasons. So just remember that these 2 bullet points will basically be your thesis statement, but you don't want to make it an announcement. So you don't want to say things like, my opinion on the issue is, or you don't want to say things like, this editorial is going to cover. No, just be assertive and direct whenever you are stating your opinion. After you've told us what your reasons are and discussed them in detail, because like I said, the reasons should be part of your thesis, but you also want to discuss the reasons more in depth. So maybe 1 or 2 paragraphs where you discuss your reasons. And typically in a standard essay, we say 3 reasons. This isn't a standard essay, so you could have 1 or 2, but try to have more than 1 reason. I would say try to have 2 to 3 reasons. And again, you don't have to discuss each one in a paragraph, but you also don't want to discuss 2 reasons in a paragraph and make that paragraph super long. So it's up to you how you want to approach that. I would suggest that maybe try to discuss, if you have 2 reasons, you could discuss them in 1 paragraph or 2 paragraphs, again, depending on how complex your reasons are. Next, you want to go ahead and address the opposition. So why would some people disagree with your point? And you also want to provide a rebuttal. What is your response to them? So like, for example, if I'm saying that the media has a negative or portrays the border in a negative light, why would others disagree with me? So I would just kind of go ahead and explain why some people would disagree with me, but I would also refute them and say, for example, I would say, some people feel that the media provides an accurate portrayal of the border. They feel this way because of what the government tells them and what they see in the news. However, here's my response to them is, however, many of them have not actually been to the border to see what things are like. Therefore, they are basing their opinion on the media. So something like that could be my rebuttal. After you've done that, go ahead and address what your audience can do to fix or improve the issue. For example, if I'm writing about the portrayal of the border, I could say one of the things that people can do is make sure that they verify their sources, make sure they're reading credible sources, make sure they're not reading fake news, make sure that they are reading information that comes from reputable newspapers, news outlets, things like that. And of course, I would explain that this is a good solution because if it comes from a reputable source, then of course they're not going to be biased or try to sensationalize something just for ratings. And one of the things that you want to make sure that you do is that you incorporate at least 1 source to support your argument. Now, obviously, the article is not going to be the source. What you want to do is probably find a source, another source that talks about this problem. So what you're looking for in terms of sources you're looking for a source that can provide some sort of statistic to maybe show that this is a problem, or maybe some sort of statistic to show that your solution is a good solution. So again, the article can be a source, but you still need another source besides the article that you are writing about. Because in order to fully prove your point, you need some sort of evidence. So you need, I would say, if you're trying to show that this is a problem, or you're trying to support some reasons, you need evidence. So the source can support the problem. In other words, it can show that this is a real problem, or it can support your reasons. whatever your reasons may be, you can find an article or a book or a video, a credible source that relates to your reasons, or you could also find a source that supports your solution. So again, there's a lot of different ways to use sources. And in case you have any questions on what makes a credible source, please let me know. I know that this is something that we cover in English 111, but I also know that for some of you, it has been a while since you've taken English 111. So just let me know and I can go ahead and send you some information that I have for my English 111 regarding how to evaluate sources. And of course, the end of your editorial should end with, again, what can people do to fix the issue? What message should your audience take from your editorial? So basically, at the end, you really want to convey the significance of this, right? For example, if I'm talking about inaccurate portrayals of the border, what's the significance of that? So for example, I can say that, these inaccurate portrayals have led to stereotyping, and in reality, the people who live on the border are regular people just like anybody else. So we shouldn't make these distinctions, right? So that's my overall message to my audience, that the importance of this issue is not so much how the media is portraying the border, but the stereotyping and discrimination that is occurring because of that. So at the end, you really want to show the significance of this topic. And of course, you want to have a reference page to cite the article and also the source that you are incorporating. So please let me know if you have any questions. Like I said, you can pick any newspaper. You just have to make sure that the article is about the US-Mexico border. So if you have any questions on finding newspapers, finding sources, or again, if you want information on how to evaluate a source, let me know and I will be glad to share that with you.